Adam Robinson, co-founder and CEO at Hireology. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Jordan. Glad to be here.
Yeah, and it's cool. We're just coming down off of our conference last week. We had you guys out there. You were a speaker out there, and it was just great to connect with you and see you in person. One of the things I always wondered was, how did you come to found Hireology? Like, where did that passion come from? Where did that desire start?
Yeah, I think at this point I've been, in and around staffing, recruiting, and in HR for 27 years. And so, I started my career in the staffing industry and went to work early in my career for what was then a startup that served dealer networks. So we were, the company's called ClickCommerce. It was a software business, pre-cloud, pre-iPhone, late 90s, early 2000s. And, everything a dealer used to do to communicate with their manufacturer, submit warranty claims, submit for co-op marketing fund reimbursement, order inventory and parts. It all happened through a fax machine or an EDI feed. I mean, this is going back a long time ago.
Oh boy!
And so ClickCommerce was one of two vendors in the space that, for all dealer networks, not just automotive retailers, but marine, recreational, airplanes, HVAC, industrial gases. I mean, these are all dealer networks. And farm equipment and heavy machinery, of course. I spent 5 years working in dealerships, installing, back when you used to have to bring a web server into the dealership and stick it in the closet and host it locally, off the dial-up or DSL connection. And so we did that, and, that company had some success, and, we went public in 2000. And the biggest issue I had at ClickCommerce was the turnover rate of my dealerships. Dealership customers. Sure. And what I mean by that is I had to, every vendor has this issue in automotive retail. You had to retrain my customer 2 to 3 times a year because all the faces were new. And I just started thinking about, my time in the staffing business and my experience in working with the operations inside dealerships, thinking there's got to be a better way to do this. Like, this is just a process and intention issue. It's not, nothing is keeping us in this industry from being great at the people side of the business. It's just the intention to be great and tooling to make it easy. And that's where Hireology came from. I was, inspired by my work inside dealerships and, combining my experience in recruiting and staffing to bring a solution to the market that helped address that issue. And so I've been, software for dealerships for my whole career, more or less.
Interesting. So, originally I had thought that Hireology made a transition into the automotive or dealership sector, but it was really born out of that, and it was born out of those needs. And just like you said, sometimes the faces really change a lot within the stores themselves. So there's a lot of retraining that might take place. When I was in the automotive world, we used, automotive retail, before I joined ASOTU and our team here, we used Hireology. And I loved how simple and easy it was to really go through that pre-screen process and all the different steps that you can set up to make it custom for that. So it's really cool to know that that tool was built specifically for dealerships. What do you think that dealers are looking forward to in 2024 as far as like hiring, employment? Do you think things are going to change over the last few years? Do you think it's going to get better? Do you think it's going to get worse? What's your insight?
Well, I think it was said on stage in one of the panels, and I can't remember who said it at your conference, but, I've been making this point as well over the last couple of years. If you were in sales and automotive retail in 2021 and 2022, and you think that's what automotive sales is, you're going to learn that's very, very wrong. You're learning that's just kind of like, that's not how this works. You don't just show up, take some orders, and make $250,000. Like, that's not normal. And, so many people came into the industry where, the average, take-home pay for automotive sales professionals grew 68% in 2022. It's not because salespeople suddenly got 68% better. It's because there were no cars to sell. Like, that's the reason. And so I think a challenge dealers are going to be dealing with is re-explaining the reality of automotive sales on the new and used side. Really the sales as a profession is a skill. You hone it over years. It's not an easy a job, it's more rejection than success. Of course, anyone listening is, have been a part of that, and they understand that. It's a profession, it's a craft. You have to hone it. It's not easy. And they don't just walk in the door and buy anymore. It's not happening. And so I think dealers are going to be struggling with retention for folks that came into the industry out of COVID from other industries where maybe, there was employment compression and came in and thought like, hey, this is great. They ratcheted up their personal expenses. And now this year they're going, what the heck? Like where's all this easy money that I used to have? I know dealers are dealing with that right now. And so, what that means is dealers have to be really good at explaining their employer value proposition to their staff. Like, why is working here more than a paycheck? Here's the opportunity you have in the career path available to you. And I know, you joined at a wonderful time, but that was really an outlier time. And, now that you're in it, let's talk about what it means to have a career here, not just come in and, time it right. That's the issue right now. I think a lot of dealers are grappling with.
That's right. And just like you said, retention is such a big issue. Just like you said, 3 years ago, if someone came into the industry, being able to go into 2024 or 2025 with that same dealership, things are going to change a little bit. And now all of a sudden, those dealers really have to explain, hey, here's actually where more value is in your employment relationship other than just your paycheck, which is going to change. And there's other pain points I think that dealers are going to continue to see, sourcing the right people at the right time, just finding that relationship and making sure that they're onboarded correctly. What are some pain points you think that dealers have right now that are only going to start getting worse? And what are some ways they can overcome those?
Well, the biggest pain point is a shortage of technicians, which is the topic I spoke on with some really smart folks up on that stage.
Yeah.
We're short 67,000 techs. It's an average of 4 per franchise dealer. We're short. That's not getting better. It will not get better, in the next 10 years. Just the demographics are working against us in the industry. So we have to be really good at finding and keeping folks. That's but far and away the number one challenge. And I think those dealers that are the most successful at addressing this challenge have a two-pronged approach. Number one, they've figured out how to start early, go into the high schools and trade schools and build a farm team. Second, they recognize the value of an experienced tech, and they're going to do absolutely everything they can to make them feel welcome, to value their service and their expertise, and to not drop the ball on making it the most welcoming and accommodating work culture that they can, through schedule flexibility, better designed service bays. I mean, all the things, these become job perks. And these are the things that separate one dealership platform from another from an employment perspective.
Yeah. And there's two things you brought up that I want to split up. So the first one is, if dealers really do want to play that long game and find their technicians at schools or at high schools or trade schools. So you talked about farming and planting those seeds and then harvesting them one day. What do you think is a good strategy for just getting some seeds planted, whether it's at an automotive training school or even at a high school? Like, what advice would you give a dealer?
Yeah, I mean, and so many dealers are doing this, but the difference between trying it, and being B- at it and being really exceptional at it is recognizing that this is a forever investment. And step one is building that network of relationships, contributing financially to schools to help them build out their auto shops, buy tools, have internships, sponsorships, or apprenticeships that start at the high school level. You've got to literally seed it financially and seed it with your time and investment to explain the careers. And in many cases, these underfunded programs in cities around the United States, the dealer body in those communities are the best equipped and I think have the most to gain from investing in this infrastructure. And so, step one is you've got to know where the schools are. Meet the folks that run them, build relationships. Step two is you just have to start showing up consistently. I mean, this is a years long effort. It will take, there's a return on time here that's measured in years, not weeks or months. But you have to do it. You just have to do it. I mean, there's no reversing this demographic trend of shortage of skilled vocational talent in our industry. In time to solve your problem that's going to be even worse 2 or 3 years from now. You've got to be great at finding and keeping those who are already in the business. You've got to be great at bird dogging those who may want to come in and helping cultivate their careers so that when they graduate, they've got that certificate. They're already, they've got a conditional offer in hand when they graduate to come work for you. That's the way
right.
that winning dealerships are doing it that way.
Yeah. And so speaking of winning dealerships, another thing you brought up was you have to be able to keep those employees and really give them that great experience. Recently, Hendrick Automotive, Ziegler Automotive Group, they really got top praise through Glassdoor's ratings for being one of the best dealerships to work for in the country. I'm not sure if you're aware of their operations. I mean, I'm sure you are just because of the name and the connection there. But what are some things that they might be doing or other dealer employers might be doing that are really able to give them that great employee experience?
Yeah, retention, in my opinion, is delivering on the promises you made in the recruiting cycle. So you've got to have a great recruiting game. You've got to be selling things that people want to buy from a job perspective. And today, the top 3 things are schedule flexibility. Second is career path. And third is a supportive work culture or culture that I feel comfortable in. And so if you're selling those things on the front end and you don't actually have them on the back end, that's 50% of the turnover in our industry happens 90 days after someone's been hired. So there's an opportunity to go at that first 90 days of employment. And that's the first tourniquet to tie. If you figure out, all right, that's true for us. We're losing half of our people in the first 90 days. Why is that?
Yeah.
That comes through exit interviewing and auditing your own process and figuring out, are we delivering on the promises that we've made? People get excited. They take a job. They're excited to walk in and start working for you. And they leave because they're disappointed and it wasn't what they expected. That gap is a dealer's opportunity to do some work and figure that out. So, it requires naming it and managing it. You have to manage and measure these things, and solving the retention issue in our business is a boil the ocean problem. But solving or improving 90-day retention at this one store is completely addressable by your team today. You just need to say you're going to be better at it, and then put some intention and effort behind it. Start working it down. I mean, you start 90 days at a time.
Yeah. And in the dealer world, they're always so used to that 30-day cycle. So, of course, no one's going to want to come up with a process where they don't really see that feedback and that loop until, years down the road. But what you're saying is 50% of the time, a new hire will leave the company in 3 months. That is such a short period of time. And if a dealer can really create those processes and track that and really see what the issues are, and like you said, it's got to be not delivering on the promise of what took place during that recruiting process. So if if a dealer is not doing any processes right now to track why people are leaving, especially in those 90 days, what should they start doing? I know you mentioned exit interviews. There's got to be some sort of sentiment analysis that they could easily do. What are some simple things they can execute on so that in those 90 days, they can start figuring out what is going on?
The thing everyone can do without spending $1, but they need to spend a minute, is just check in with their new hires at a high frequency in their first 90 days. I mean, and it sounds, so simple, but it's not easy to do because everyone's busy, right? Time is a luxury in this industry. So, you start with the outcome you're looking for, which is, I want a happy employee on the 91st day that still wants to work for me. So that's the outcome we want. What are the inputs that lead to that output? And I would break it all the way down to day one. All right, let's make sure everyone who starts working here has a great first day. What would a great first day look like? Okay, let's make sure we can string 5 great days during their first week together. What would a great first week look like? Well, it would be a great day one and a very articulated strategy. Checking in with them over the course of that first week that ends with the sit down and asking them 3 or 4 questions. How are you feeling? Is this what you expected? What's the best thing that happened here this week? hey, what's something that you're wondering about or that you're unclear on or that may have frustrated you this week? What can I be doing differently as your manager? I mean, just basic stuff. Now I've gotten to the first week. Now I want to do that for 3 more weeks. I want to do those end of week check-ins during the first 90 days. Now I'm going to, hey, end of your first month here. We've got, at the end of your first month, we've got this process or thing or event we do. We huddle up with these people and we talk, here's some questions we've got, let's grab lunch, grab a coffee, go through that. You repeat that process, you get to 90 days. The chances of you having someone feeling like they're valued and excited about what they're doing goes way, way up. And just doing that, what I've seen is you cut your turnover rate in half just by paying attention to people who just started working for you. There's no investment other than your time. And for someone who might say, I don't have time to do this. Okay, well, you have time to, chew aspirin and be stressed and do twice the work you should be doing because you're understaffed. So how do you want to be spending this time? It's a reallocation of time to things that give you leverage as a manager, as opposed to things that take away your leverage because you're doing the work other people should be doing and would be doing if you'd paid attention to them when they started working for you. And so it's flipping that script. And that's just a reorganization of your time. And that's a step one everyone can do.
Yeah. And it's an attention thing. It's like when that new hire shows up, because I've been in that place a few times where I'm a new hire at a company. I don't really know what's going on, but I show up and I'm nervous and I'm really ready to get going. But also I show up almost as like the number one fan of that new company, whatever that is. Yep. And you're excited about that and you really want to have a great experience. And to easily knock that out of park for your new hires, I feel like that's a simple thing, is you check in with them, you see how things are going, you ask general questions. And I don't think it takes up really that much time overall. It's just kind of checking in and being aware of them and their sentiment throughout not just the first day, but the first week, and then how did their first month go? And then how did the first 3 months go? All that.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. You think about, what makes a great day one. People introduce themselves to you. You got a tour. You knew where to park. You knew where the bathroom was. You knew where your locker was. Maybe the team carved some time out and had lunch with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Just it's basic human courtesy. Extended on that first day makes that a great first day. And saying, over the next 90 days, I want you feeling excited as at 90 days as you are on day one. So we're going to focus on your first 90 days. And here's what that looks like. This week, we're going to focus on these things. So let me take you through what your first week's going to look like. At the end of the first week, we're going to sit down. We're going to talk about what week 2 looks like. And that requires someone to map that out. Like you've got to have a process for bringing someone through, that first week. If you only do the first week before you get to normal business, it's better than doing nothing. It will make a difference.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, I love, Adam, what you're up to. I love what Hireology is up to. There's a ton of additional resources between videos and guides at hireology.com that listeners can check out. And Adam, just thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, Jordan, thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching this episode of In the Dirt with ASOTU. If you're new to our channel, make sure and mash that like and subscribe button. Also, check out some of these links for our other great podcasts and content.